Hi, I'm Francis. Welcome to my building coach. If you're planning to extend your home, then one of the first questions you're going to be asking is what will it cost? Which is essentially what can you afford to build? Now there's another question that you'll be asking along with that one, which is what's possible? And it's the combination of these two questions, what's possible and what will it cost, that is the start point for your project. Now, to answer what's possible at this stage, you're looking at what other people have built in your area, what's allowed under permitted development. So check out the planning portal website. There's a link below this video. And then what do you actually want to build? What space do you want to create? And essentially, why do you want to extend your home? And then what is it going to cost? This is the question that can be really hard to answer. And there are two reasons why this is difficult to answer. The first one is because an obvious place to look for an answer is online. But if you do that, you will find an answer, but what you'll also find is a load of different answers, and that's the problem. You'll find conflicting answers, you'll find answers that sound cheap and answers that sound really expensive. And the reason for that is because all of these answers are being presented to you by businesses who basically want to sell you something. They are builders wanting to do the building work, or they're architects wanting to design your project for you, or they're a company with a product like windows or doors that they want to sell you. So it's worth bearing in mind whenever you look for answers online that any question you have about your home extension, that the answer will almost certainly have an ulterior motive. Now, you're probably thinking, hold on a minute, if that's the case, then surely I'm here presenting because I've got something to sell. And you're absolutely right, I do. I'll be totally above board and say, yes, my building coach offers a home extension guide. That's what I have to offer. The difference being that the guide is there to give unbiased advice and guidance. It's not trying to sell you a service or a product. So the motivation is purely to help homeowners like yourself to navigate this process and work out accurate answers to questions like these. But that's not why I'm here today. I'm not here to pitch you that offer. So let's get back to what your home extension will cost and why that's so difficult to answer. And the second reason it's difficult to answer is because in the UK, the cost of building the same extension varies massively depending on where you live. That roughly equates to house price value. So if you live in an area with really low house price value, then you may be able to build an extension for, say, £50,000. And if you take that exact same extension and build it on a house in a really high value area, that same extension could easily cost you £100,000. And the difference can be even more extreme than that. So there is no generic answer to what your extension will cost because essentially it depends on where you live. So how do you answer that question? And why do you need to answer it now? Now, let's just start with why you need to answer this question. And it's because if you don't, then you will do what most homeowners do, which is realize they need an answer to this question and they need some plans drawn for their extension. So they go find an architect and they pay the architect quite a lot of money to draw plans, and they give the architect a budget, how much they want to spend, and the architect draws plans and says, yeah, you should be able to build this for your 50 grand budget or your 100 grand budget, whatever it is. Great. But what really often happens, a really common problem, is when it comes to getting quotes to build that extension, the price that comes back from the builders is often way more than the original budget. And I'm talking 50 to 100% more. That's incredibly common. So essentially, the whole system is broken. And the reason it doesn't work is because architects aren't going to build your extension for you, okay? And if you look at their contract, they do not even guarantee that the plans they draw are going to match your budget. So you need to answer the question, how much extension can you afford to build in square meters before you commit to paying to get plans drawn? Otherwise, you can easily spend several £1,000s on plans for an extension that you can't afford to build. So how do you do that? What you need to find out is an average cost per square meter to build an extension where you live. And in order to do that, you need to get as many answers to that question as possible. So the question is, what is the average cost per square meter to build an extension where you are? Now, start by asking friends, neighbours, colleagues in your area who've built an extension recently. The more recent, the better, especially with the increased material costs over the last couple of years. So you work out that figure by finding out the total cost spent on that project divided by the total square meterage of that extension. That will give you a cost per square meter figure. Now, the other people to ask are local architects, local house designers, local builders, and you don't even need to meet them. You can do all of this over the phone because the only thing you need is an estimate or a range of cost per square meter to build an extension in your area. Now, if you gather together all these figures from friends, neighbours, architects, designers and builders, you'll get a really good idea of what the average cost per square meter is where you are. And then there's one final thing you need to do, which is to take your total available budget, the maximum amount of money that you would ideally like to spend on your entire project, and divide that by the average cost per square meter. Now that will give you a maximum extension size in square meters that you can afford to build, roughly. So let me summarize. You're going to find out what's possible by looking at what's been built in your area and by checking the planning portal website. The link for that's down below. Then you're going to work out what you can afford to build by finding out the average cost per square meter to build an extension in your area by asking friends, neighbours, architects, designers and builders, and then take your total available budget figure and divide it by the average cost per square meter to work out what size of extension you can afford to build. If you found this helpful, then like and subscribe for more home extension advice. Take care.